Hello viewers, today we've got an awesome guest from US. He's Mr. Jonathan Lehman, the Chief Strategy Officer of Global Blockchain Association, and he's going to share with us what is the role and the critical aspects of Global Blockchain Association, right? So here we have Mr. Jonathan. Hello, Mr. Jonathan. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ganesh. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
It's an honor
and
thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to have you on board, and it's we are so excited to listen from you as to what's ahead of us in 2019 for as far as the blockchain world is concerned. So let us start the interview first, and let me ask you to quickly introduce yourself for our viewers. Also, how you happen to get involved in blockchain revolution.
Great, thanks. So my journey to blockchain from here has been rooted in very early internet access when I was just a kid, and long before the www web that we all know. Came up through both a manufacturing background and systems engineer, and spent a lot of time on enterprise systems. So really got to know organizational structure and IT services and needs, and really what was the business need for those. So it was sort of a natural progression for me. My latest background has been in enterprise social collaboration. So kind of bring everything together, and I saw a use case or a product very early on, maybe 2014, 15. And I looked at what they were doing and how they were using a business model that I had never seen before. Now, granted, I had gotten some Bitcoins maybe 2 years earlier, but forgot I had them. So it was this technology that allowed for people to share or to store their data out into a distributed network, and there was no single file on any single server. So I saw that, and I had to go deeper. I had to learn what's beneath this, what's happening. So I saw the whole blockchain, and then the incentive and value measurement or opportunities through their token. So from that, I was really involved in how new business cases could be developed. And I happened to meet Gerard Daché, who's the president and founder of Government Blockchain Association. And first thing I said to him is, how many people do you have working with you? And he said, well, 2. And I thought, this is a really big operation, but apparently it's not. So I joined at that point. It was a little over a year and a half ago. And here we are today with 90 chapters in 45 countries and 50 working groups that are centered around use cases. So that's what got me to this point.
That's pretty interesting. You got into this as out of curiosity, right?
Right.
That's interesting. So can you elaborate on the various roles GBA is playing in bringing the individuals, organizations, and governments together?
Yeah, GBA is a nonprofit trade association. As I mentioned, got 90 chapters in 45 countries. We are a connector, and our mission is to promote our members in blockchain DLT solutions in the public sector. Civil servants anywhere in the world can become a professional member for free. Private sector and must pay a nominal fee to join, like any trade association. So what we do, or the way we see ourselves, is we've built the playground, and that includes a social platform where our members can connect and communicate and collaborate on actual working projects within our working groups. Mm-hmm. So our role is to be a connector. Mm-hmm. And that does also include us promoting our members in the sense of being subject matter experts or thought leaders. They join an association like this for business networking and for personal or professional growth. So we're here to promote that and help them achieve their goals.
Interesting. So GBA claims to be not involved in lobbying. How is this different from lobbying?
Right. Well, that's a great question, and it comes up all the time. So in the U.S., the IRS, Internal Revenue Services, designates a trade association as a 501c6. There is a lobbying nonprofit designation called a 501c4. We are a C6, so we operate in accordance to those rules and regulations. Now, we can lobby technically, but we have chosen for ourselves and within our confines or our ethics and values that we don't want to engage in that, because then you're taking one side over the other and trying to push an agenda. And if you are trying to do that, then you're not being open and allowing every other opinion to come in at an equal level. But
it won't be a level playing field anyway. If you could, if you do that.
Yeah, right. And we focus on providing it's not lobbying but policy. We do advise on policy. We do provide, or our members provide that services. Maybe in their working groups, they'll create a blog or a white paper or presentation that will be advice to those that are seeking more information, be it governments or private industry or what have you.
Nice. So can you highlight the result of impact or awareness that GBA's work has brought in? It could be anything from policy making or regulations or even compliance, etc.
Right. Well, this kind of goes back into sort of our position on being able or contributing to policy awareness and knowledge. That is something that we do. We've delivered white papers to the French government regarding their interest in cryptocurrency and regulations. We recently did a white paper for the country of Cameroon, looking at what impact raising tokens or raising security might have on the whole of the government, and kind of what the pros and cons of that would be. Also, our French chapter are working, or chapter lead, about a year ago, 6 months ago, she was given the opportunity to participate on the EU roundtable on blockchain. I believe there were only 200 people that were selected. So those are good examples of where we are contributing and providing awareness, maybe some guidance, but again, not pushing any specific agenda.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. That's an incredible work. So, why is blockchain and governance a pressing issue? And is 2019 all set for government regulators to initiate blockchain pilots?
Right. This is another great question. I like to separate out blockchain from cryptocurrency. Obviously, we GBA, we have to include cryptocurrencies in everything we do, just because really there's, as much as there's a separation between the two, cryptocurrencies rely on blockchain. So there are aspects that absolutely have to touch each other. So I do think the governance of cryptocurrencies is very complicated, and I think that's gonna continue to be so. But here in the States, we've got states doing things like Wyoming, Ohio, Arizona, Virginia. All of these states are being extremely progressive in pursuing blockchain-friendly environments. So we're seeing a lot of that activity that is positive by the states coming out and establishing some governance and some guidelines. So it's going to grow, but here in the States, it's going to bubble from the bottom up. Yeah, so when it comes to federal government and certainly blockchain, it took government nearly 10 years to they kept fending off the open source systems and cloud data centers. I believe blockchain will have to be done in half that time, if not shorter or faster. So for the government, at least for federal government agencies, they move really, really slow. And the resistance to them is cultural and it's organizational. It's
how
not
any bureaucracy works, for that matter.
Right.
Now, red tapes are really hard to break through.
Yeah, and this goes beyond blockchain to organizational change management. And that's one of the things we touch on in our training. But this truly is a different way of thinking versus how things, it's always been done this way. So, most importantly that we see is that change management, and that can only be done with time. I often kind of refer to blockchain because of its efficiencies and everything that's going to bring to the organization. I'll use the next generation Star Trek that from the Borg, resistance is futile. It is futile. This is going to happen.
Yes. So, how many governments you are able to gain access to and bring them to discussion table, and how would you rate the engagement level?
Right. Well, given the newness of this technology and GBA being a little over 18 months old, we have engaged with organizations at the state, national, and international levels. We've had interactions with India, France, UK, Cameroon, South Korea. In fact, I was invited to go over to South Korea for the 29th and 30th of the end of this month. And I could have gone, but I felt that there was someone else that would be better representative and have a better connection and tie to that, to this South Korean government. So I let him go, and the interactions that are going to come out of that, I know we've seen this before, are going to be huge, and it will result in us having sort of an explosion of our chapters, not just South Korea, but throughout the Asia, reach.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, and that's one of the positive things, about our growth is that we're growing and gaining and have a much wider reach. Of course, the drawback to that is no one of us can see everything. So it's a welcome problem to have.
Right. So you seem to be offering courses on blockchain and cryptocurrency. Who are generally the beneficiaries of your courses, and what's their motto of getting educated through your certification?
Right, and thanks for asking about this, because our training and certification is really one of the biggest values that members can get by going through our courses. our our target student is generally it's generally more business oriented. I had mentioned organizational change management. While technology is there, it, it's there to solve problems, and people need to be able to identify those functional requirements and manage the projects versus a software engineer or developer. So our programs are made for that individual, the business analyst, perhaps a business and technology solution architect, or contractors, anyone part of the acquisition processes for federal government or for governments. So we don't go down into the deep depths of technology. We stay up above and really empower and engage, or allow our members or students to engage in conversations that they would never have had the opportunity to do before.
Right. So this is more at the surface level or at the executive level courses, you mean to say?
Yeah. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
You mean to say it's more of executive level courses?
Right. And even a step down.
For C-level executives.
Right. And that's a good point. Our general fundamentals course is just that. We are developing specialist courses. Right now, we've got the executive track, and we've got a healthcare track, a law track. So what we're doing is, with our working groups, we're creating custom content per working group, but we also will go into an organization and create custom content for them.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, it's a module type of system where we can plug and play. And as we develop these specialist courses, that's gonna make a big impact on those that are specialized in a field can get blockchain knowledge and education as it relates to their field versus just a general, this is how blockchain works.
So have any of your beneficiaries of your courses developed any products in blockchain that solve problems faced by any public sector so far?
It's kind of a tough question to answer, because one, we've had so many people go through, and I can't keep track of everyone, but we have had members of our organization obtain work through, after going through the training. But again, this is really is more for sort of the long game of individuals having the ability and enough knowledge to engage in the conversations. Not only what gives them confidence, but it gives them perhaps a competitive advantage in the workplace. So while we don't see a lot of things coming directly out of the training, we see people having the ability and knowledge now to develop experience and make recommendations within their organization. So, sort of like tending a garden. We've planted the seeds, we're doing some watering, not quite ready to harvest yet.
Yeah, so that itself is a great start, you could say, in a very shorter period of time.
Right.
Yeah, nice. So we saw that GBA, in your GBA certification, the developer courses were Ethereum and Hyperledger. Any more courses in pipeline?
Well, the way our training program has evolved, I'm not going to say created because it has changed a lot. what GBA does now is we have certified training partners, and those partners are, empowered, enabled to deliver, all of our training for getting the specialist courses. There are things that they have to do, and even to become a training partner, there's some requirements and stuff they've got to fulfill. So GBA has gotten out of the training, game for the most part, but we have never done any technology specific training. However, our training partners do. And and that's where, if you go to our website and you see the Ethereum and Hyperledger, if you click on that, it actually takes you off to another company's website,
Right.
I believe called the Blockchain Academy.
Right.
So yeah, we, and that goes back to what we just talked about earlier, that we're here for the business level and not not down in the coding and actual software development.
Right. So, referring to your students chapter, the GBA has suggested to introduce blockchain to graduate students. How to drive innovation from students beyond mere awareness, and what are the challenges involved in this initiative?
I really like that question. The way I look at it and present it is that, the students of today are the workforce of tomorrow. And I would like us to go even deeper than the higher education graduate, bachelor students, and even get down all the way to elementary schools. I spent some time with my 10-year-old niece over the holidays, and she was telling me how one of her courses was learning how to program in some simple object-oriented language, but she couldn't get her character to perform some action that she wanted to, so the character would get some reward. I was floored. 10 years old in 4th grade, and
Wow.
This is this is what they're learning.
Right.
So, back to that, the students are the workforce of tomorrow. If we couldn't possibly predict, that we would have Uber and Airbnb, or even Amazon for that matter. We could not have predicted that in the 80s.
Right.
And so, here we are in blockchain. We're in the 80s. So we don't, the sooner that those generations, they develop the uses and new business models, we don't know. But all we can do today is give them the opportunities and guidance and mentorship, and support. And that's why we have engaged in the student program. It's interesting because, our challenge, at this time is that we can't answer questions because we don't even know what the questions are. So, we can't tell the younger generations, okay, this is what you're going to do. We don't know. So all we can do is support them in that education and growth.
That's interesting. So, can a decentralized system ledger like blockchain work within a strongly centralized public sector? Is it a possibility?
Yes and no. Yes, in terms of many of the services and data that the government provides for citizens. Now, I'll say no for everything government does that may meet strict requirements, such as mission critical enterprise systems that maybe have the PII, personal identifiable information. So in my opinion, many people do not see what and whom government does and is. In fact, the current shutdown is shedding a lot of light on this, and people are starting to realize that that services that government provides are critical. So one of the things that I see with what's going on is the government creates a lot of data and a lot of information. And in a lot of ways, that's what they do. I mean, whether it's air quality from EPA or the National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA, or the census, with the amazing amount of data they create. Companies, private businesses either create a business or maintain their business on that data. They use that data every day to deliver something to an end user that is now a company that employs people, that sells products that consumers use. A good example there, WeatherBug, that it was created solely on open source data from NOAA, National Ocean and Atmosphere Agency. So there's tons of cases in that sense. So I look at, can government, work within a centralized public sector? Yeah. Government is the largest venture capitalist in the world. And that information that they share there's no reason for it not to be on a public chain. It won't be. It'll be cheaper, it'll be faster, it'll be easier. In all respects, it'll be better. But when it does come to those mission critical activities, yeah, they're going to remain private. Unfortunately, I argue in many cases that even that is more of a risk than if you're using a public chain.
Yeah, if it goes in the wrong hands.
Right. Right.
So for a quick question, like the recent shutdown in US, has it impacted the mainstream acceptance of blockchain or cryptocurrency in US?
That's really interesting, because I've been curious to see if there's any movement within the cryptocurrency markets. We haven't seen any impact or effect on it at this point. Now I think, sort of out of the fire, the phoenix arises. I think this is going to create a lot of discovery and asking of questions of how can we do this? How can we do our mission while being basically crippled for weeks on end? In fact, I just saw something about the court systems and how they're looking at running out of they're going to be running out of funding soon, and that means people aren't getting their court cases. The ripple effect is tremendous. So when everyone gets back to work and things settle down, the questions are going to be, how do we prevent this? I believe the answer will be blockchain. There's no other answer. So hopefully we see that emerge from this current situation.
Interesting. So with Chinese government drafting new regulation for by asking blockchain users to register with their government IDs,
Mhm.
thereby scrapping the anonymity. What are your thoughts on this, about this restriction?
Yeah, as you know, as GBA doesn't engage in lobbying, so it's probably kind of treading a bit close if I'm talking about anything policy related, but I I think that things will shake out. Uh, China is a different structure. The behind the wall that they've created. I don't know if I don't know enough about the culture or society. If individuals are they that concerned about their identity? A lot like we are, here in the States.
Mhm.
Is it something that that they oppose, or are they okay with it? Now I can kind of bring that to the U.S. and say that when we get a driver's license, we pretty much hand over our life. It really, you could replace this the question with the U.S.
So, continuing to that question, following question, like whether GBA has any access to Chinese government, were you able to approach them, bring them on discussion table or something like that?
I as GBA, we could absolutely, and if they wanted some opinion, or they wanted our thoughts on policies, the good and the bad, and what might be the effects of it, who are the actors, how do they get benefit. Up to this point, we that has not occurred, but we did just this week do something similar for the Cameroon in Africa. So we're open, and we are spreading. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next several months that we don't have some kind of interaction with our chapters over there. I think we got 2 or 3, and engaging with the government. I had mentioned earlier about the South Korea event going on at the end of the month. That's what it is. It's government. It's South Korean government getting together for 3 days to talk blockchain. And we're obviously we have a seat at the table. So China might be a little ways off, but I think it'll happen.
That will be a real breakthrough if you could make this happen in the coming months.
Yeah,
we'll hope for that. So can you name any solutions you or your member companies proposed to US government, or any other government for that matter, that were approved and implemented, or at least in the process of being implemented?
Yeah, and this goes back to one of our value props as part of GBA, is to provide that environment where our members can expand their business development. So within our cybersecurity working group, we had an agency ask for our opinions on policies and a white paper on hosting blockchain technology within government approved data centers. In order to for an organization to get into a data center, it can take up to 18 months. It is very hard. It's very difficult. So our working group lead His company is Stratus Cyber, and he led the working group for that and the efforts. So what wound up happening is the whole group produced this white paper, and it was about what would it take to get an ATO, which is an authority to operate. And so they delivered that paper. Well, they turned around and offered Stratus a contract to further expand what the policy and what the research had uncovered. So that's what we're here for. We want to provide that environment and foster our members to help get work. I know there's been, I don't have any specific examples, but I know our chapter lead in London, he's gotten a lot of business out of what he's doing. Our chapter lead in Puerto Rico, same thing. He's very active and he's a former CIO of Puerto Rico, so he has a lot of influence. So, but that's why people join. It really is not just to meet other people, but the business development.
Right. So, should the government of countries nominate blockchain experts to parliament? Would this help in upcoming, engagement or acceptance on both sides, or maybe the mutual trust level would increase?
Right. I absolutely, it will help. No question about that. And not only that, blockchain friendly legislators are going to build legislation around those benefits and what they can do with offering or enticing blockchain businesses to come to their state. The best example of this at the moment is Wyoming. They've been leading the charge, and they're not stopping for anything. I also we had a candidate run in our last elections who had built a voting platform, voting on blockchain, and he used that as part of his differentiator between him and the opponents. And so if let's just say if he was going into Congress, he would have much more influence and much better impact, and he knows what the challenges and problems with voting on the blockchain are long before he even gets into office. Another good example is Governor Polis in Colorado. He just won the recent governor election. Prior, he was a legislator in the U.S. House of Representatives, and he was the co-chair for the U.S. Congress Blockchain Caucus. So, how much influence was it that he, was the co-chair of the congressional the Blockchain Caucus that helped him become governor? We don't know, but. It is safe to say that there are people now running on the fact that they are blockchain aware and that they want to use the technology in any ways that they can. So,
so the gentleman, if you can, the governor's name who's in favor of blockchain.
Governor. Yeah, Governor Polis.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So, how critical it is bringing the highly sensitive data into blockchain in terms of security and confidentiality?
Yeah, as I touched earlier, the highly sensitive data and mission critical enterprise systems that may hold things such as the personally identifiable information or HIPAA information, which is health insurance, portability, and accountability.
Defense data.
What's that?
Even the defense data, the information about the defense of each country.
Yeah, and I think each country has these types of privacy items that they hold from individuals. There was a big security breach hack a year and a half ago of the federal government, and I think they lost over 1 million records of individuals, everything from social security number to where they went to elementary school, their dog's first name. This was highly sensitive data. So the data, I believe, will reside on private chains, and I get that, but the security of the data, besides within the hash, there isn't any more or less risk than the current private cloud systems that they have in place. I mean, if someone can get into those servers, well, then how hard is it for someone to get in and manipulate, if it's a proof of work consensus, how hard would it be for them to manipulate that? That's not hacking the blockchain. That's just bad security.
Right.
So
that's a very important point you raised.
Yeah.
Okay. So you claim to be a non-profit organization aimed at bringing about positive social changes using blockchain technology. Would GBA remain that way forever, or are there any possibilities of GBA venturing into commercial collaborations in developing solutions in collaboration with the industry and governments on the cards, or if not now, at least in the future?
Yeah. That's a great question, because as a nonprofit, we rely only on memberships and a little bit on training. So we have to look at creative ways. However, given our nonprofit status and the type of nonprofit we are, we're somewhat limited in what we can do as far as services. For example, we just released what we're calling a concierge services, or professional services, where we'd have a customer success manager that would provide services above and beyond what the association provides, for its general population. These may be marketing, it may be market research, it may be competitive analysis. It's a bucket for those members that want to pay extra for that. We'll sit down and figure out what it is they want out of us and what we can provide, and how best to move forward, and then provide that resource to deliver it. So to say that we'll not engage in commercial ventures eventually, it's been talked about. Only for the reason I say we're a nonprofit. There's nothing sort of on the table or in the cards at the moment, and I don't expect to see anything come up for quite a while.
You're not ruling out also.
Yeah.
And you're not ruling out either completely.
Right. So, did I answer the question?
Interesting. When it comes to
Yeah.
money, obviously, things change over a period of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And it, it certainly is possible. It may make the best sense for us to have a for-profit, sister organization that we can take better advantage of, that profit status, and better advantage of the nonprofit status, because then the nonprofit isn't dependent on so much of these necessary memberships and both private and corporate to function. So not that the two can commingle or exchange things back and forth, but they can coexist. Right. So yeah,
that's sure a possibility.
Yeah.
Right. So what are the challenges that your member companies encounter while applying blockchain solutions to solve the problems of the faced by governments, and how do they overcome them? I mean, not GBA by itself, your member companies.
Mm-hmm. That goes back to the organizational change management. A lot of people just want to jump straight to the blockchain, but just like IT and even the web, there's a fundamental paradigm shift that has to occur, and what we see in places with resistance is that their government doesn't want to take any risks because the consequences are so much higher than the private sector. So overcoming that is a challenge. And hence why that our training course is, to address that exact need and approach. So, overcoming them is no different than overcoming the change management that happened for ERP systems or email or, so it basically, I kind of think about that and I can just take blockchain away, out of the question, and it's still the same answer.
Right. So, were you able to provide any training or education to the government itself? Any of the governments?
Several of our we've had several people come through our training that are government employees, or past past employees.
Is it only the U.S. government or all the governments put together? I mean, other governments as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I am focusing a lot on the U.S. and federal government and state governments. This is, this is what we tend to do in America. There's a whole rest of the world out there, so we got to expand our thinking. So we are seeing that. Both the UK and in France, even Cameroon, in India, all across India, our footprint in Asia and Australia, they are all faced with the same challenges. I would argue that we, here in the States, impose a lot more challenges on ourselves that may not be necessary. But there's also other factors, such as one of the reasons why Wyoming has been so successful and moving so fast is, and pardon me for anyone that's from Wyoming, there are more cows in Wyoming than there are people. So you can move fast and you can be nimble. If you take Sweden and take, pretty much all these other countries, we're 330 million people. so, so trying to change the mindsets, half of that versus half of Switzerland or Sweden, it's a whole different game.
Yes.
I think the best analogy that I see is that foreign nation states are very similar to our states. A lot of them about the same size. Except for California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So is it possible to have uniform regulations for blockchain across the globe, since more countries imposing regulations on blockchain-related businesses are generating chaos among the businesses?
I wish. Like I said, we're in.
Since GBA has got a huge access across the globe, you're already having more than 90 chapters functioning like. So you could have such a possibility.
And if anyone is well positioned to do that, it would be us. It would be GBA.
Yes.
Because we're building a coalition. It's not an exclusive club. So could we see some form of a global acceptance? I don't think so on the full global scale, but can we see, that there are agreements between, maybe the next, trade agreement, for us with Canada and Mexico, maybe it is to say, all right, you guys got to be on the blockchain. We're going to do border, actually Customs and Border Patrol, they did do a pilot on blockchain. Maybe in those sort of agreements we say, okay, we all want to be on a chain, or many chains. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen at that level. EU, I think, would be another great example where that could happen.
Right.
Between cross borders, and this kind of goes to one of the things I believe in, is a borderless world.
Yes.
In many ways, we're already there. Blockchain could make that happen. Without blockchain, I would say no, that would never happen.
Right.
Perhaps. When you have someone like Estonia, who after being hacked said, okay, we're going to blockchain everything. And every morning they publish the public key for all transactions that happened the day before. I mean, that's great. If we could all do that, it would be a different place. So
maybe at the incremental level, if not in one shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll start seeing it happen between states here. You have like the highway system here in the States.
Yes. That's a great example.
Yeah. There's no reason for the states to not be on here it's the Department of Transportation. So there will be things that happen. It definitely won't be a big bang, but a lot of what we do will be borderless, much as the internet is.
That's fantastic. Well said. So with more crypto-related firms hacked in the past, how do you justify blockchain technology is highly secure and immutable, especially for government projects which are, as you mentioned, are very mission critical?
it's a great question, and I kind of see like the answers in the question. Yeah, there's been a lot of hacks. There's been a lot of money lost.
Mm-hmm.
But has the chain ever been hacked? No. It's exchanges, it's websites, it's databases. It's not the chain itself. I go back to one of the largest data breaches here in the States. That was a matter of just sloppy systems and controls. The Target breach that happened a while back, Target department stores, that happened because there was a temporary employee for 6 months in the IT department, and he had admin access because after the audit, after all this happened, Target realized they had hundreds or thousands of admin accounts. So he installed a little worm on a server, and 6 or 7 months later it got activated. Is that a hack, or is that sloppy security and sloppy controls?
Right.
I argue that it's sloppy. You can call it a hack, but no, it's social engineering. And many would say 99% of the time that it's social engineering that gets information, not anything else. You can call up a credit card company and say, oh, so-and-so is my spouse, lost her card. And they send you a new one. Oh yeah, my address changed. And they, it's crazy. The other thing about that, about things being hacked is, I always hear people say, oh, what about quantum computers? They'll be able to hack the chain then. And my reply is, if a nefarious actor has a quantum computer, then I'm pretty sure that all the nodes on a blockchain are going to have a quantum computer. So it's sort of, that is something that, that's the least of our worries.
Right.
But between the hashing and SHA-256 and just the distributed nature, I don't see a hacking of a public chain happening sort of anytime soon. Governments will keep their data in private chains, and that will be how things are flushed out.
Nice. So, can blockchain technology help in confronting the global warming and terrorism? What's your take on this? That touches close to me. I think one of the best things that blockchain's going to improve is what's known as the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. They have, I think, 19 of them, and they're the identifying the unidentifiable, human trafficking, water, a myriad of things, including global warming. And I think there's tremendous opportunity for these social sustainable opportunities. Global warming, for instance, all the stuff I was saying earlier about what what the government produces for hurricanes and sea water temperatures and air quality and everything else. Right now, it takes, just like in the commercial world of supply chains, taking days or weeks to get some piece of data that they implement a blockchain solution in. It takes 2.5 seconds. That real-time data for global warming will be revolutionary.
because we'll be able to react and see things much faster than we've ever been able to see before. So I think there's tremendous opportunity to improve, react, and identify, what is it that we need to do to mitigate or, eliminate this problem. Now for terrorism, I think it's great because it's anti-money laundering, identity management, supply chain, everything. These are all things that can be used in ways to catch the nefarious actors. Everyone likes to say, or they used to say, Bitcoin, someone will die. I think Jamie Dimon said that. But the reality is the FBI loves blockchain. They absolutely love it, because now when they find someone that they're trying to track, they don't have to spend all this time and effort to get that person in one single event performing one or two specific crimes. They'll just sit there and watch them for weeks or months. And when they go to arrest them, they've got like 15 charges. And all they had to do is watch the blockchain. It was that simple. So they love it. One of our companies called Simba Chain, they were awarded some of the first grants from DARPA. It's the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They're basically the biggest venture capitalist within the government. So Simba Chain developed a means for communications to ride on a blockchain, and so with that, what happened was soldiers and commanders in the field or in theater, say Syria or Afghanistan, can send messages that get hashed and delivered to the Pentagon or other command centers. There's it's essentially eliminating the chance for interception. Yeah, maybe you get the block, maybe you get, but what are you going to do with it? So I think in combating terrorism, there are just tremendous opportunities and strides that we never had before. And I think the anti-money laundering, is a really, really big part of it all. Because they can, authorities can see these transactions taking place, and if there's anomalies, they can look into it and they find out, or they identify that, okay, these are nefarious actors, in ways that we could never do before. If someone exchanges, cash in hand, well, we can't do that. Can't track that. So I do think tremendous strides will be achieved in there's social good programs such as global warming and terrorism.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, Mr. Jonathan Lehman. You've been very kind enough to spare your valuable time and share your thoughts on various questions we put across. It's really grateful. We are really grateful for you for having given the interview for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ganesh. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.